Hi, I'm Dennis with TeraFlex. You know what? The rumors you've heard are true. TeraFlex is back as one of the main sponsors of the Jeep Jamboree USA. We're excited about it. We thought, what better place to jump back in than to come up here to Mullan/Wallace, Idaho to the Silver Valley Jeep Jamboree. You know, up here in the Panhandle of Idaho, you know, where the trees are tall and the mining trails are endless. It's like a great place to do this.
I want to thank everybody here for coming. This is the biggest event Mullan has in every year. You guys come here, you respect what we have, and it wasn't always like that. I mean, there was a lot of negativity towards Jeep Jamboree, and now they welcome us with open arms.
After some very important messages from Mayor Don, we did the short drive to, well, it's the nastiest trail that the Silver Valley Jeep Jamboree has to offer. Grous Gulch. Yeah, okay, so the name isn't exactly scary, but the word around the camp said otherwise. So after doing a careful risk-reward analysis, along with researching the potential of our survivability and the odds of being able to drive my Jeep the 700 miles back home, a decision was made. Oh, it's on. After all, we did come here to wheel. After a quick highway drive, the trailhead begins with a bit of a flex fest. The road had been carefully washed out in an effort to provide us with a good warm-up for the trail ahead. The Flex Fest became a suspension twister and wheel placement exercise that tested the passengers' trust. That well-built two-door JK made me proud, with the perfect wheels on the ground line, done with total confidence and control. The rutted out wash continued as we dodged trees and the occasional branch. I gotta throw in a thanks to our trail guides and their extensive trimming efforts, you know, to keep us shiny. The final transition rut was a beaut. The Jeep waves were aplenty. It was, you know, hashtag photo op. Most of our favorite Jeep Jamboree trails were once mining roads. When the miners spotted the potential for some good ore, they acted like Jeepers seeing a nasty trail peeking over the hood. There was no obstacle big enough to stop them. But both groups always find the time for a good photo op or two. That put us back on the road for a short stretch and some of the views for which Silver Mountain Jamboree is famous. But finally, we reached the trail. You know, if that's what you want to call it. It's more like driving down a wash/river filled with boulders. This is why we came. There are lots of two-doors with us on the trail, and they always do really well through the rocks and tight twists. The four-doors did just fine. The wash is really pretty wide and passable. We're plowing through a big old boulder field. The short wheelbase Jeeps, well, they really shine. It's always great to see the guy in front of you take a nice line and effortlessly crawl an obstacle. Yeah, that's unless you're next in line and the cameras are rolling. No pressure here though. We're all friends.
Front locker engaged. Made a deep hole for yourself.
If you're watching a group of Jeeps slowly crawl over a boulder field or maybe a series of obstacles, you may be wondering why. Why so slow? Why in such a big group? Or maybe just why? Yeah, a single or a small group of Jeeps could probably run a trail much quicker. But that's not why we came to the Jeep Jamboree. Being with a group of friends and having some spotter support helps us crawl out of our comfort zones and challenge our Jeeps and improve our driving. And you know what? It's just plain fun. We started out on this trail with 20 plus Jeeps. And then suddenly, you find yourself alone on the trail. Well, in this case, it makes sense. It's a J392. Of course, he left us all in the dust. The thing about a Jeep Jamboree is that families are welcome and even encouraged. And after all, who doesn't love to splash in the water and turn over a boulder or two and embrace a little mud? To be clear, I'm not talking about the drivers here. The best line on the ever-changing Waterfall really depends on the Jeep. Its lift, wheelbase, and tire size all play a role. But when it all comes together, the success of a slow, controlled crawl over an obstacle, that's just hard to beat. It's a beautiful thing when the spotter and driver play well together.
I did not do that.
By the time we noticed the wash starting to smooth out, well, at least dry out, we were coming out to the end of the trail. It's jaw-dropping to see how much material the miners move from here to there in search of, well, whatever it is they're looking for. As long as we're going to stop for lunch, let's not miss out on a photo op. We're all feeling like the real deal after what we just went through. Now, Jeep Jamborees are always a kid-friendly event, and our trail today was richly populated with urchins. They looked like they were having so much fun. I wanted to jump out and walk and splash in the water and the ankle-twisting rocks with them. With lunch under our belts, we were ready to continue the trail. Now, continuing with the trail consisted of turning around and heading back down the riverbed that we just drove up. That's actually a good thing. It's possible that we may have cleared an obstacle or two much too easily, and that we hadn't been able to fully enjoy the experience. This will give us that opportunity. There's nothing like driving in the shade in a trickling stream. But we shouldn't overlook the fact that our trail guides pre-ran the trail and cleared out all the nasty, scratchy stuff and the fallen logs out of our way. You know, we really can't thank them enough. Even with all the trail prep, this is still a riverbed. It's not like they made a ride at Disneyland out of the thing. The waterfall we all struggled with on the way up seemed to be much easier with gravity on our side. But the downhill gravity didn't help with the wet tire traction. We were all able to pick our way through the rocks and dodge the occasional tree draped across the trail. The thing about driving down a river is that the rocks that stopped progress on the way up now became marbles rolling under our tires on the way down. It makes the trail feel like a completely different driving experience. It's really interesting how the water in the riverbed comes and goes, but the rocks and the logs, well, they live on. River bottoms are so much fun to drive because of the constant driver focus they demand. And the same line doesn't necessarily work for every Jeep. A larger lift and bigger tires, they may be able to straddle a rock, while a smaller lifted vehicle may need to put a tire on that rock just to stay high so they don't bottom out. Sometimes we just plain need a spot. Sure, we could possibly survive the squeeze without body damage, but with West being willing to make the walk back to save our shiny, it made this slippery tight spot much more comfortable to drive. A good spotter is great to have on the trail. Thanks, guys. When we were finally clear of the riverbed, the washed out road, well, it's now a V-notch, was waiting for us. It's such a cool feeling to have our suspensions flex and twist under our Jeeps and effortlessly make short work of the wash. After surviving the boulder field of the first day's trail, we thought a glimpse of the softer side of the Silver Valley Jeep Jamboree would kind of be nice. It was explained to us that this Stairway to Heaven trail was going to be more of a scenic run with a dash or two of some good climbs and some pay attention narrow roads. The trail consistently climbs with some amazing breakout views. But the 30-degree climb up to the overlook lunch spot gave us a great view of the valley and the surrounding mountains. This whole area really has to be seen in person. We came off the overlook and headed down to an old mining rig. The hills are full of mining sites and old, how did they even get that up here? Massive structures. This was once a tower for an ore gondola. Yeah, the ore buckets were filled at the mine, then transferred into big old buckets using these massive cables to carry the ore. It's impressive how nature is able to reclaim something this big this fast. They weren't bashful about sending the ore a long way down the canyon to the crushing and separating plant. The mountains are, shall we say, unforgiving, and trying to bring the ore from the mines to the processing plants would be almost impossible without the tram system they built. Quite a few of the residents still work at the mines, and it's a big part of the economy. You know, it's no secret that mining isn't a bed of roses. But there was a time, well, it was actually the late 1800s, when the economy and the mining industry took such a hard hit that mining became unprofitable. The solution was to cut the pay of the miners from $3.50 a day to $2.50 a day. Now luckily they were only working a 10-hour day, so the man thought that seemed fair. The miners thought otherwise, and they formed a union and stalled that pay cut. But the battle dragged on for years, and I mean battle. The miners were sitting on a warehouse full of dynamite, and they had the skills to use it. Yeah, it was bye-bye to the Frisco mine when the boys detonated said dynamite and reduced the mine to small rocks and kindling. Never underestimate the capacity of an unhappy miner, for corrective action. Yes, one might say this area has some history. Now, we stopped at the remains of a mill site on our way back down. One of our trail guides, Ian, has worked in the mining industry for many years and was a great source of information on what happens at a mill site. The ore comes into the mine from the top and it's separated by rock size, then passes through a settling pond where the desired minerals are floated to the top through a chemical bonding process that gives the minerals flotation through hydroponics. The mineral-rich slurry is then floated off into settling ponds and recovered. Okay, so I have no idea what any of that means, but I did hear Ian say those words. So it was obvious to us that the mining company had contracted with various creators and commissioned these talented artists to tastefully enhance the area through art in an effort to beautify the mill site for the enjoyment of its visitors for years to come. All right, this was the last stop on our trail run, so we headed back to camp. Dinner was waiting, and we all know how Jeepers are. Seems like every jamboree that we go to, sounds corny, but you know what? We make new friends, and so does everybody here. It's really a lot of fun to just get out and wheel, make some new friendships. So we look forward to seeing you on the next jamboree.
That was pretty good. How do you feel about it?